clearly it's quite early, or might be late depending on how you look at it, but for me it's quite early. Um, so I saw this video, and I'll see if I can try to link to the original. How in how if you look at cognitive functions, I'm talking about Myers-Briggs style, OPS style, um, introverted intuition, extroverted sensing, introverted feeling, extroverted thinking, which I suspect are my functions. Um, how the if you look at the axes, so NS in this case or FT, how the introverted one is just long-term extroverted one. And this video has been going through my mind the last few days, and I'm like pondering on it. I'm considering it, and it makes so much sense to me. And I'm looking at my behavior during the day and what I do, and I realize, I think it's opening up my, or changing my interpretation of the terms. I think I'm starting to understand consume better because of this, because I do think it seems to confirm my suspicions of my own type in a way that other videos I've seen couldn't really. Like felt like I saw a number of videos that said things that made sense on the surface, but I wasn't entirely sure how I did things, how I fit. My suspicion is more strongly that I am sleep consumed, NIFI, and I think double feminine. I have to check it again. It's not easy. There's feminine sensory and feminine TE, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure actually, but I'm not sure I'm pretty sure I'm feminine TE, but I don't know if that's the right way of describing it in OPS style. So what's the point I'm trying to make? The point I'm trying to make is I do believe I am sleep consumed, and I think I'm starting to understand, or it's starting to crystallize that I really don't like to TE if I don't have to. I can TE, I just don't like to. I seem to really associate TE with negative. I only TE when it's needed, and it normally is when it's already way too late. I don't preemptively TE gladly. But what I realize is, for example, and this is coming just now, I basically have a situation in which I feel obliged to make sure that certain systems in my life are running. And systems in my life is a very abstract way of saying a set of workflows and the equipment I have. It's a particular aspect of my life where I feel very responsible that these things are working. There's no leeways, no way of saying, well, okay, I can make it work. No, it needs to be ready at all times at any cost, basically. And if I look at it, it does seem to me that I have this concept of what it means for me to be ready, and that means, so let's say the blasty side, so to speak. But I don't approach from blast. I've always approached from the sleep side, meaning I kind of look at the sensory and say, is my physical environment ready for what I value? SEFI. And this idea suggests to me that I do consume. But the thing is, what I keep going back and forth between is, am I an NIFIINTJ or am I an ISFP with like very strongly developed NI? And I keep going back and forth between the two, but not between back and forth. It's more, I'm pretty certain, let's say 95% certain I'm INTJ, but I keep checking in mentally, like going through the scenarios and see, but am I really? I just double checking, like, okay, but I'm more convinced I'm INTJ. Anyway, the point is, what I realize is, in this particular case, this particular aspect of my life, I valued it very much, and I aligned my physical environment with that value. But I don't structure, like, I don't really understand Blast. I keep looking at it and I keep saying like I don't really get it, or at least I don't see a positive Blast easily, because also it seems to require other people and I don't like other people. That's a bit strong, but it amounts to I don't want to force myself upon others or tell people what to do, and I also kind of feel obliged to get my own stuff in order first. I'm still trying to figure out how to work better with it with the TE and I. So with consume sleep and probably blast last, I I'm left with play demon but third, not last but still demon, and that makes sense to me because I tend to have this. I jump to play when I feel stuff is not working for others. I don't play for myself. I'd like it makes sense, but I don't jump into action for myself as much. I'm like, yeah, okay, I plan things out and do stuff. I'm not living in the present for myself. In my own mind, personally, I'm living in my own mind. All like that's what I do. But as soon as I notice the people around me that are close to me, which is normally like one, two, maybe three people, maybe, um, I jump into action. I go do stuff. And I much rather spend 9 hours killing my own personal productivity to solve this tiny little problem for someone else that's close to me. Then I know talk about it, trying to figure out. I don't understand it. I just expend energy. And part of it is, I think, because I feel that if someone close to me feels compelled to complain, and it's I need to be careful with my wording, but complaining in this case mainly means that I feel that their quality of life is hampered and I can feel it, suggests to me it must be intense. And I realize more and more, or what I've been learning the last few years, is that I am the one who feels their tension. They don't necessarily have to. I have some people in my life who are much more emotive, so they show their personal, like they vent. I don't vent, in that way at least. So whenever I hear them, I'm like, there's something going on. I need to take action immediately. Um, so suggesting indeed that my SETE is predominantly the demon state, predominantly like when stuff is not right. Otherwise, I'm in my mind. So basically, I feel pulled out of my mind space into the cold, harsh, cruel world. Attack the world with all my energy, all my energy, in order to make it less threatening, and then I revert back into my own personal mind space. That's basically what I do all the time. Anyway, so the video makes so much sense. So what I'm going back at is the sleep consume, and blast consume, and I think what's happening is indeed that with the consume, I basically long term blast. It's not entirely true because they both have a short term and a long term component to it. Whereas with sleep and blast, indeed, basically, if I have to blast, it means to me I didn't sleep enough. I didn't foresee it. I didn't do enough to prevent that. So whenever I need to blast, I really take it to heart. Like, okay, I need to change something immediately so that it will never happen again. I have a very strong sense of, okay, this happened. How can I prevent it for all? Oh. Long story short, anyway, I'm not even going to talk about it. Point is, so I think with the blast consume, I don't get blast. I don't understand blast, or at least I don't see a way in which, from my current state of living, blast makes sense. I think blast starts to make sense more and more once I go out and actually interact with people. Because I'm so internal driven. I don't like people. I don't care for people, except for those I do. But these are very important people to me. So I have a very strong filter. Oh, another thing, immediately, with the whole long term, short term. It makes so much sense to me, basically, that I have both sleep and play. I think it makes sense because what I realized a while back as well, and I kept going, I guess, I have two time frames: eternal truths and immediate need. I don't understand in between. I have no understanding how people can, prioritize and organize things in the middle. Because for me, it's like what's all relevant or none of it's relevant. It's meaningless and it's ambiguous. Because I don't feel like why would you do this thing before the other thing or other thing if they're not clearly always relevant or immediately relevant. I only understand immediate or eternal. So the way I've been organizing my life is also about making sure I can always do all the things that I feel are always relevant, which is, for example, my ability to deal with what I termed now for myself violence and what's called, what is it called? Yeah. Violence. I've got some notes that I need to check. So my craft practice and study, violence and attrition, and my capacity for intelligence and persuasion. I feel that these are just for everyone at any point in time relevant aspects to develop or capacities to develop. But that's always the case. So for me, basically looking for my diet, training, studying, and trying to acquire particular skills that I feel are eternally relevant makes sense. Or I put out fires. But intermediate, like short-term projects where I focus for something for a few weeks and it doesn't make sense to me. Anyway, so this was, I think, a consumer report where I just talked about a certain video that kind of triggered insights in me that seemed to have consolidated my thinking more and more. It's still open to me whether or not I am an INTJ or an ISFP who has developed an I quite strongly. I don't know. But I realize indeed FI is just present. So that's why I'm thinking I've got masculine FI. I just basically realized my decision making is just first and foremost based on do I value it before I consider does it work for everyone under all circumstances. That's just FI first. That's where I go to. I'm also thinking sometimes, like, do I maybe have some TI tendencies? There are certain contexts in which I tend to do go lay asleep and say, but the definitions are wrong or whatever. But I don't feel obliged to do that. I can, and sometimes there's like an itch, but I think it comes more from my FI. I feel like it's only for things where I am interested in and value, then I go deep. But if I don't care, I don't go deep. I don't have the other way around where some people just want to understand stuff in general before they think, well, do people actually care? So I'm pretty certain I'm not a TI. I don't really care what other people think about things, how people think about other things. I care more about if it's in my FI box, especially my NIFI boxes. Anyway,